Hello, everybody.
Hey,
Welcome back to the pod.
look at us in person together for the first time in a
special
really
treat.
long time.
Yeah, I actually wonder how long it's been since we've recorded in person.
I feel like it was maybe like one of the ones where like you came over and we like both recorded with like either Colleen or Ethan.
Oh yeah, I guess that was a long time ago.
Yeah. So anyways, we're going to try and do this a little bit more often, I think. Now we live closer together.
Mhm.
And we all know that like COVID's over. So,
and we have dogs that are friends, so it'd be pretty rude of us.
Friends. If you see a dog in the background, which also, if you're seeing this,
welcome to YouTube.
We're gonna start posting on YouTube as a podcast. I'm not gonna go back and upload all of our old episodes, so sorry. Just go back and listen to them like a regular podcast listener.
But yeah, I feel like it's a thing now to like watch podcasts, which I personally, actually, I don't know. I can kind of get behind the vibe of like putting it on your TV while you're like working or cleaning or something. I guess it's nice to put like a face to the voices.
Sure. I personally just listen to podcasts like a normal person through my AirPods while my toddler is screaming in the background, so I drown it out. That's just kind of how
I'm like a podcast and a walk type of girl, so YouTube wouldn't really work for
that.
Or
in the car. Like, I'm not gonna be watching YouTube videos in the car.
But we thought some of you might want to watch it, and I know it's a thing with a lot of like bigger podcasts, so we decided to hop on the wave. So
we're gonna be big.
We are.
We're gonna be big.
First step. Do you have a win for the week?
I don't know if I can call it. You know what? Yes. What is that noise? First of all, okay, sorry, because we're recording outdoors, so sorry. It was like random. It's not even it's not garbage day, so I don't know what kind of a vehicle that could be driving around my neighborhood. My win is that I had this job that I needed to get done, and it's the most disgusting job. If you follow me on Instagram, you would have seen it. We have apple trees in our backyard, and the apples fall off the trees the first 2 weeks of August, and our green bin is not big enough to take the load of the apples. And you can't eat these apples because they've fallen, or like a bird has half eaten them, or like a squirrel has half eaten them, and they're just like so gross. So we've been putting them in like bags and like a garbage can. And today I was finally like, I cannot do this anymore. We're literally making prison alcohol in our backyard. So
I think you had a business there. So
I don't need another business. And I loaded them into containers and I put them in my car, and we went to the eco station, and I went twice to the eco station this morning, and it was so disgusting, but it's done.
It's done.
It's done. Also, shout out to the guy at the eco station who was working there, who was very kind the second time I came through.
It's like you have more apples.
And to the kind gentleman who was pulled up at the yard waste receptacle beside me the first time I was there, who was like, "Do you need a hand?" And I was like, "No, thanks. I'm strong."
I appreciate the offer, but I don't need it.
So the win is getting it all done, and now my yard looks amazing, 10 times better, and we have almost no apples left. So winning on all accounts. What was yours?
I have like a mini one, and then I have a story / a win to share with you. Okay. My first win is that I was on time today.
And I wasn't.
Which is like, everyone's probably like, yeah, so what, Jill? But I'm not necessarily known for being timely. I'm usually like a 5-minute running late type of girl. But
you do always text.
Yeah, I'll always let you know. But today I was like, nope, I'm going to get some coffees. I'm going to be there on time. And I did it. So that was a win for me. But the bigger win / cool thing, I told... If you're not watching on YouTube, we currently have iced oat milk lattes. And I told Jess she didn't have an option. She had to say yes to a coffee because I didn't actually buy us these coffees.
Do we have a sponsorship?
Basically. So I had a consultation call with a client to join Happy Hormones last night. Nola would like to make an appearance.
This is Jill's dog.
Had a consultation call to get a lady signed up for Happy Hormones. And then she shared with me that she listens to the podcast every morning on the way to work. So she started from the beginning of our podcast and is catching up. Her name's Melissa.
Hi, Melissa. Thank you.
And she said she just listened to like the Kim K episode. So she's like, I have a lot of catching up to do, and I have so many questions because she's like, you guys like share life updates, and then I know I'm behind, so I'm like, is this still a thing? Is this still happening? But anyway, she wanted to thank us for doing the podcast, and she sent us a gift card to spend on like coffee and stuff when we podcast. And she just wanted to like say thank you for the information that we put out there. And she was like, I've implemented lots of your guys' tips and it's made like a huge difference. So yeah, she sent us a little gift card for some coffees,
Melissa,
for while we podcast.
Thank you. And can I just say that maybe we need to make this a thing of us like, I know there's links or things that you can post that people can buy you coffees, or they can just, it goes into an account for like coffee. So we can definitely do that if people want to do that. But also having even just one person that listens regularly that's implemented things that we talk about, that is why we do this.
And that's what I told her. I'm like, we're like, the coffees is so nice and so not needed, but like very appreciated. And that's, I told her the win is just knowing that the information we put out there is actually useful for people. But I was like, Jess is going to be so excited that we have our first sponsorship.
And it's so funny because I was just telling Jill this, that I had a haircut yesterday and I mentioned the podcast to my hairdresser, who's also like a friend of mine. And she was like, what's a podcast? And so I was like, oh, let me flip over this rock.
I didn't know.
But I explained it to her, and then she's like, so like, do you get money? And I was like, well, no, but it's basically just like us having a free resource that we have questions that people ask us all the time. And we can just like, rather than having the same conversations with people in our DMs over and over and over again, which, you know, most of the time we're happy to do, but sometimes we can just send you a link and you have like a 40-minute listen about like an in-depth of the topic. So, it is helpful. And I know that we have a lot of our clients who are currently clients listen. And I know a lot of people who are even potential clients. It's a good way for people to get to know us and be like, you know what, actually, I really do vibe with both or one of us, which I think is so cool. And it's just like, it doesn't cost us anything to make. So like, don't think that we're out here like putting our money in. Like, we bought this microphone, if you can see it, like a few years ago, but because we don't ever record in person, we don't use it.
Yeah, podcast, it takes a little bit of setup, but it's a pretty low cost. But yeah, Melissa said that she feels like she's hanging out with her friends every day when she walks to work. So.
I also have a fun story from a listener. So since we're on the topic,
I actually could have cried yesterday. She was being so nice, and she's like, I want to send you something to say thank you. So thank you for the coffees.
One of my clients, shout out Becky, I'm pretty sure she listens on the weekly. She sent me a message and said, oh my God, did I tell you how much of a loser I am? Which she's not. She's very cool. And she said, my coworker and I host a lattes and lifting meetup every Friday to talk about our wins for the week. That's the good part. The loser part is borrowing your podcast name. So yeah. Shout out Becky. Thanks for we don't mind if it's not copyrighted. You can call but I love that you're taking like time to celebrate your wins, because that was something that we agreed on right away when we decided to start the podcast, was to have that be like a segment, and share wins every week, because and I know if you listen, you guys know that sometimes we're like, I don't know, because it doesn't have to be some big thing. It can be like that you were on time and you're usually late, and that can be the win. It doesn't have to be something huge.
Yeah. So we always appreciate when you guys share, first, that you listen, and second, that it's helpful or you took something from it. And that's, I think, the biggest thing you guys can do for us if you're ever looking for a way to like say thank you, is just like let us know that it's helpful, because sometimes we feel like we're talking into the abyss.
Leave us a review. This is my dog Penny. If you're watching on YouTube,
you get the bonus. Our incentive to watch on YouTube is seeing the dogs.
And going on the same vibe, we did have a question come through a question box that we put up. And although I feel like this is something that we should have been discussing, or maybe we've discussed inadvertently, I don't think we've discussed this exact question. No. So,
and I think it's a good one, and it's a common one. We're going to chat about pre-workouts, post-workouts, proteins, all things around working out, and what you need to do or should do or don't do.
So the question was, what are the pros and cons of a pre and post workout drink and or protein? So I think we can break this question down into a couple different parts. So let's start with pros and cons of a pre-workout.
Yeah, I think pre-workouts are they needed? No. Can they be helpful? Yes. Like I always tell people, like if you feel like you can go into your workout and you have energy, and I mean, I find pre-workouts get a bad rep with everything because the bodybuilders of the world tend to ruin the good things for us.
Let's just say if you see somebody who's like making a video and they have like some powder and they just like dump it in their mouth and then they chase it with water, it's probably pre-workout and you don't need to drink it like that.
No, you actually shouldn't drink it like that. But what's the point of pre-workout in the first place? Pre-workouts do a bunch of different things. Most of the time people are taking them for energy. They're usually fairly high caffeine. A lot of people take them for the beta alanine. I talked about it on my story yesterday. That's what gives you a pump. So if you've ever taken pre-workout and gotten tingly and you're like, oh my God, there's ants in my skin, it's the beta alanine.
That's why I don't like pre-workout.
Yeah, it just helps you vasodilate. So more blood goes to the muscles you're using, makes them look bigger. If you ever hear people talking about like a glute pump or an arm pump, that's what they're talking about. Pre-workouts help with that. And then you can get a bunch of different things from it. Focus is the other big one.
I also think that there might be a mental side to that, in that I drink my workout drink, I'm ready to go. Like it's just like your ritual before the workout. So you could even have like, my favorite pre-workout is coffee and a snack. Nola is like, yes, coffee and a snack.
No.
So anyways, don't mind the dogs. So I prefer to not use like a powdered pre-workout. I'll have a coffee and probably like half a banana and a scoop of peanut butter, something that has some carbs and some fats. That's going to give me instant energy in a different way. That's not to say that like you can't do the scooping pre-workout. Jill's giving the dogs a treat. But pre-workout doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be a drink, and it doesn't have to be a specific pre-workout like powder. It can just be your ritual before you work out.
Yeah. Pre-workout supplements have a bunch of different things in it to kind of help with that. I do agree with a lot of it's the mental side. Like I only half scoop my pre-workout. So if you look at it from a caffeine standpoint, it's really no more than a cup of coffee. So is it really like giving me all the energy in the world? Probably not. But I do think it's a big, like, it's the same as your bedtime routines or your morning routines. Like it kind of gets my brain in the mode of like, hey, we're going to go work out, figure it out type of thing. Do you need it? No. Cons of pre-workout, I find from like a hormone health side, it's going to up your caffeine intake. So if you're already a high caffeine person, if you have like 2, 3, 4 cups of coffee in the morning, plus maybe like an afternoon pick me up, whether that's an energy drink or another cup of coffee, and then you're also doing pre-workout before the gym, it can just really drive up your caffeine intake. And you might not necessarily need that much caffeine. And you're probably not feeling crazy effects from any of the caffeine if you already have a high intake. So I would just watch that if you're choosing to buy a powder, because some of them have like, if you full scoop it, there's some pre-workouts that have like 600 to 800 milligrams of caffeine, which is like
that's
4 cups of coffee.
Yeah.
Mine, of course, I use TC Nutrition, is half a scoop is like 125-ish. So pretty similar to a cup of coffee.
Yeah. And so especially if you are a pregnant athlete, you're going to be looking at your caffeine intake anyways. About 200 milligrams is kind of the most you want to be having being pregnant. You can have a little bit more, a little bit less. Not going to do any harm, but obviously if you're a pre-workout person, you're going to want to take that into account if it's something you haven't paid attention to before. And then I think the only like downfall is that the only other downfall I could think of is like, if you don't like that tingliness of the beta alanine, then maybe a pre-workout drink is not for you. I'm not going to say to anybody that a pre-workout snack is never for you. It's always a good idea to have some sort of fuel.
Yeah.
You can work out fasted if you want, but like this isn't the podcast for you if that's what you're doing. That's
Unless you're
probably
working
somewhere
out at
else.
like dawn, then like I don't blame you for working
Yeah,
out.
but
fast.
even still, you can have like
a banana.
a couple. You don't even have to have the whole banana. That's the only time I will say you don't have to have the whole banana. You can have a couple bites and like a spoonful of peanut butter, and like that's enough. Or like a couple bites of granola bar. It's enough to get a little bit of glycogen in your system and give you something to burn.
Yeah. I think the other thing I will mention with pre-workouts is just know what you want out of it. When clients ask me, should I be using pre-workout? Well, do you feel like you need it? Like, are you dragging through your workouts? Do you feel like you can't focus or you don't have enough energy to get yourself through it? Do you struggle to like feel your muscles contract when you work out? Pre-workout can help with that as well. And just know what you want from it, because there's stim-free pre-workouts if you're not wanting caffeine, or there's pre-workouts that don't have beta alanine in it, so then you're not getting that tingly feeling. So you can kind of pick and choose, but you need to know what you're looking for, or else you're just, if you head to a supplement store and ask them for a pre-workout, you're going to walk out with the most expensive one. So know what you're looking for. And if you have questions, feel free to DM either of us. I've been through many.
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot that to Jill. I'm not really
if you want coffee pre-workout recs,
if you have coffee recommendations, or if you want snack recommendations, I'm your gal, but I'm not the pre-workout gal.
I've been through many pre-workouts, and that's why I work with TC, because they're the brand I landed on. But yeah, there's lots to know about pre-workouts. But yeah, if you walk into a supplement store and you're like, I need a pre-workout, they're gonna send you home with the most expensive one. I can almost guarantee it.
Probably. And it might not be what you need.
No.
So moving on to post-workout. Now, I think for most people, that post-workout drink is going to be protein. That's going to be one and the same. The only exception, and I think we'll just start with this to get it out of the way, is that my endurance athletes, if you are doing like your long run and you've taken some of your carb drink with you and you have any left over, what I'm going to get you to do before you move on to that protein is finish your carb drink. Replenish those glycogen stores right away, and then you can think about the rest of your recovery. For endurance athletes, your recovery starts with glycogen, not necessarily just protein. And I think that is a big misconception, that people are like, I need to get my protein in my 30-minute anabolic window. We're here to tell you that's not true. I'm performing now because we're on YouTube.
You're like, wait, people can see me.
Now you get to see how awkward we really are.
I do think that carbs are important for everyone. Definitely endurance athletes need it a little quicker probably, but don't skip your carbs post-workout. Like protein shake, great, but it's not enough. We need some other things going on post-workout too.
Umbrella's blowing up. Yes, 100%. So benefits of protein, I mean, you're going to get your muscle repair started. You're going to, you're not going to be like ravenously hungry because the protein is going to take some time to digest, and then you can have a meal later. I mean, that's
all, folks.
That's great. The glycogen is important because if you ever feel like you finish a workout and you're like just starving, or you have no energy, that's just going to bring you back up. And then there's not really any cons to having protein post-workout. No. I would say probably your only con is if you're not choosing a protein powder that's like quality, which I know we've talked about before. But maybe we can talk about some things to look for in a protein powder. Yeah,
I agree with what you said. And protein after your workout too is going to help with muscle soreness. I talked about this on my story the other day too, that if you're feeling like you're really struggling with recovery of your workouts, it takes you multiple days, you're like really dragging. You should probably up your post-workout protein because your body most likely doesn't have what it needs to recover properly. And having a protein powder you like and enjoy can be just like a quick, helpful way. You don't need to use your protein multiple times a day every day, but I do think anyone who's training in any way, endurance, strength, whatever it may be, you should probably have a protein powder on hand to just kind of add to things as you need it. What are you looking for in a protein? You want a protein, like an isolate of some kind. And you also want to make sure it's not a meal replacement, because there's still the like tubs of protein kicking around that are actually used for meal replacements. A scoop of protein, not a meal replacement, because it's just protein. Like a mass gainer or something like that is going to have a bunch of carbs in it as well. So you kind of get that double combo of the two. But most like average people aren't going to need 30 grams of carbs with their scoop of protein. That's more so reserved for like, again, the bodybuilders of the world that have to consume such a high amount of food that they need it in powdered form. So look for one that's low carb, high protein. That way you can throw it into smoothies, oats, whatever, and you're not accidentally consuming like 100 grams of carbs.
I will say that the nutrition company that I work with, we do have a product. They have a product called Rehab 3-to-1. And so that is specifically geared towards endurance athletes. So that's going to be, it's going to be your carb to protein ratio. So they do actually have a carb replacement in there. So that is going to cover your glycogen stores as well as your protein recovery. But again, that is geared more towards an endurance athlete. And typically I only recommend that to people after like a 2-hour effort or more. So then you're depleted. And one thing about endurance athletes is we never want you to be depleted. Because you're not going to be able to recover and be ready for your next workout, which is probably either later that day or the next day, pretty quick here. So yeah. And other things you want to look for is like the source of the protein. So whey is going to be the most common if you have, any gut issues or like with dairy in that, or lactose, I should say, or maybe it's not really lactose. Some things are really, it doesn't agree with me. So I use a vegan protein, or if you are a vegan, you're going to want to make sure that it comes from a good source. Soy is not a great source of protein. So make sure like how many grams of protein are in each serving. You want to look at that. The other thing you're going to want to look for is that it has the amino acids that your body needs and can use. So you want to have leucine and valine listed on the ingredients. And you want to make sure that it tastes good, because if it tastes like crap, you're not going to want to drink it.
And like 10 years ago, there wasn't, like when I first started in this world, supplements were not the greatest. Now there's no reason to be consuming protein powders that don't taste good. There's so many companies out there doing so many things that we no longer need to be like suffering through our supplements. I will say, a whey isolate, so made from milk, is the most common. You're gonna want a whey. I don't even know. It used to be a thing where people were consuming like casein protein. I feel like when we first started podcasting, that was the common debate because it's cheaper. Like if you walk into Costco, they're gonna like a casein protein is gonna be cheaper. The perk of like a whey isolate or like a plant-based isolate is it's made to digest quickly, whereas casein is not. It's going to take longer to digest.
And I think there are more people who are like casein intolerant than whey intolerant.
It's a cheaper protein for a reason. If you can tolerate it, cool, but it's gonna cause more issues than a whey. You can also get whey proteins now, like the TC one is low lactose, so that can be a nice like perk for some people.
I'm pretty sure the F2C one is also low lactose. I just haven't brought myself to buy another bag and given it another try.
Yeah, which is totally fair. If you know like whey milk-based things bug you, then go with a plant-based. If you're like, I can tolerate some dairy, a low lactose is probably a good option for you. I don't do a ton of dairy and I have no issues with the low lactose. I will also say a pea protein is very hit or miss with people, especially if you've got health issues. When I work with clients that have got health issues and I see they're taking a pea protein, if we take that out of their routine, they almost always have like half the irritation.
Interesting.
Pea protein's really hard for our bodies to break down, but again, it's one of like the cheaper ones, so it's more popular in vegan proteins.
I'm like, what is F2C vegan made out of? It might be pea, but it actually, I don't have any gut health issues with it.
There's brown rice, there's hemp.
Know that the classic like Vega is not your only option, and
It's
I know
also
it's
terrible.
It's still out there. It tastes so bad, so bad. Don't buy it. Especially don't buy the protein with greens Vega. That will make you
That's
vomit.
a bad day. That's a bad day.
Um,
Yeah, there's lots of protein, like especially plant-based options out there. Like I just switched one of my clients to a hemp protein, and she has like she had gut health issues. We took her pea protein out, and then we introduced a hemp protein, and she's had no issues with it. So if you're currently doing a plant-based protein and you have a lot of like gas and inflammation after you use it, if it's a pea protein, do a little self-experiment and just like leave it out for a week or so. You'll be fine. Your body will be fine without your protein. But just to see if you notice a difference, because I find pea protein is like high on the list of irritants if you have gut health issues.
Good to keep in mind. So I feel like that answered the question pretty well. I don't think there's a downfall to taking a protein powder post-workout. What I would say is, and I know, Jill, you talked about this before, maybe not on the podcast, but definitely either on TikTok or something else, is it's not terrible to have a protein replacement in your diet if you're needing to get that extra protein, like if you're adding it to your oats or your yogurt or, whatever, if you have a high protein goal. We just want to make sure that it's not the only way you're getting your protein, right? So, and I'm sure if you had a mouth surgery or something like that and you needed to have a meal replacement, yes, please choose a great protein powder over like an Ensure. Those are terrible for you. Don't ever.
Those make me think of like my great grandpa, R.I.P. Because that's the only
the texture, and I can taste it. Like, because I did have a really massive mouth surgery when I was in high school, and I had to have that for a while. But you can't have like a straw because you pull the stitches out. So it's like the worst. But anyways, so make sure you have some variety. Choose some meat or other protein alternatives. But yeah,
I would tell you the same thing.
Not bad for you.
If you were like, all I eat is chicken, I'd be like, okay, cool. Let's maybe add a different protein. So same idea applies to a protein powder. I would be impressed. And also rest in peace to your bank account if that's what you're choosing to use as your only protein source. Because you know how quick you would go through a tub of protein. If I replaced I would have to have like 5 scoops of protein a day.
It's a lot.
My tub would be gone in like 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that's it just, I think that would be really boring. Like, just give your teeth something to do. Kind of thing, right?
chew.
unless you have like mouth problems and you can't chew, then by all means.
And this leans into digestion too, but chewing actually reduces hunger if we don't ever chew. So that's why like smoothies are a quick nutrition thing, but like you might not notice a huge change in hunger because you're not actually chewing it. So
this is the story of our lives, but we're probably going to wrap it up just there because we could talk about protein probably forever. I hope that answers the question. Keep the questions coming because that makes podcasting really easy for us. We'll probably put up some more question boxes over on our Instagram, which is at Lattes and Lifting Podcast. If you're looking to find us on YouTube, I'm going to try to make the channel Lattes and Lifting Podcast. So everything is, I don't think there's another Lattes and Lifting podcast. So follow us over there, like, comment, subscribe. That's a YouTube thing. And if you're looking for me, I'm not a pro, but I watch YouTube sometimes. But if you're looking for me, you can find me at JLAC Fitness on all the socials.
You can find me at coachjill.april, and I will make sure to add the YouTube link to our link tree and everything like that. So if you do end up hanging out with us on YouTube, let us know.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.